They envision one large super corridor all the way to the tip of South America, right up to Canada. And so this is, it's really unbelievable in terms of the assault this would mean on the environment. They're right now in Texas. I'm on a committee with Cheryl Smith there, and who's with Sierra Club, and they're just starting to get onto it now. They're having meetings, and you know, they're looking at things like the land that's going to be confiscated. In Texas alone, over 500,000 hectares of land, and what that's going to mean to people. And if you look at it from an environmental perspective, and from endangered species or the, you know, the ecosystem approach, what is that going to do? You know, it's going to split America into very unnatural units, which without any thought to what this means to habitats and to ecosystems. So, and also in terms of the pollution that would come from this number of vehicles, it's hard to imagine. Somebody needs to do the research on that right away. And I think if you get all of these figures up there on the pollution and the labor and the land claims that are going to go on here. And the other thing that was mentioned in terms of the confiscating land, well, there'll be water rights involved here as well. So it's a pretty massive thing, and I think that it's images like that, you know, and the understanding. I want to give you one reference. If you go online, and I'm sorry I didn't get the references in here in time, but it's a publication called The Monthly, and just a few months ago, February, somebody called Vogel did a very, very good analysis, a 7-page analysis, which looked at what this whole thing is, and then from a labor perspective, but also talked about, you know, other impacts. And it's one of the better articles that I've seen. Apart from that, in the U.S., there's somebody called Jerome Corsi, who is C-O-R-S-I, who has been writing almost every 4 days on this. And so there's starting to be some lobby groups against it as well. So I've just been mentioning some of the concerns: the confiscation of land, the loss of jobs, the environmental contamination, the ecosystem destruction, habitat and population disruption, toll costs to people, that will be phenomenal, security, sacrifice, process hidden, denied by some in fact. And again, this has been going on for quite a few years. There's a group called the Hemispheric Group that have been meeting about this, and it was rather interesting. I just discovered that they were supposed to meet this year in Manitoba, in Canada, this hemispheric group of developers of these super corridors, and it got canceled because the Manitoba government in Canada decided they didn't want to pay the $8 million for security that would be necessary for this event. And so obviously this kind of integration, deep integration we call it often in Canada, is it's a huge threat to everything, to our sovereignty, to democracy, to the environment, and obviously to water as well, because if they're building these water pipelines, I think that they've already said that under NAFTA we may not survive a challenge, a water challenge, because water wasn't exempted from NAFTA, and there's a lack of agreement on whether water would survive a NAFTA challenge. And there was that Sunbelt challenge, but it's kind of died right now. So I think the water is, at this point, is very, very vulnerable. This guy writing recently in this Huffington Post said, "Hello, wake-up call, just what we need, a brand new 4,000-mile, 184 billion transportation highway splitting the country in two, with oil hovering near 75 a barrel and gasoline topping $3 a gallon. A host of federal and state agencies are stealthily working to construct a gigantic 10-lane superhighway right through the middle of the United States from the Mexico border north to Canada in an effort to promote trade under NAFTA." So that's the kind of thing. Yeah, we do need a wake-up call for sure. In Canada, what we've done now, getting back towards Atlantica, is they've identified the fact that there's more social cohesion, similar value systems, and increased trade on either side of the border. So they show in the Atlantic region that more of our trade from Atlantic Canada is with within the New England states area. So this is a good thing for them. So now they're studying this to see how the integration can go faster in the border regions as well. And so I discovered recently that our government, an institute that works for and does government policy, has recently done this study on the emergence of cross-border regions. And they've had, with this study, which identified all of these things, the value systems, the kind of trade, the economic development, and then they kind of took some case studies. They've been getting large groups of people together, again, bureaucrats, senior bureaucrats, politicians, senior business people, never any NGOs like ours, and they've been using these reports to try to see how much faster, how they can sort of move this integration along. And they definitely talk about political integration as well as trade and economic integration. So it's sort of like you were saying, Arnie, you've got all these different trade agreements going on. You know, it's as if we don't get one, we at least get the other. And you get the same feeling with this cross-border region. We've got all this going under SPP and NAFTA, because the SPP is just an extension of NAFTA. So there's all kinds of committees still meet under NAFTA. And then you've got this. And so it is really hard to keep on top of it all. Okay, so let's get to Atlantica. Is somebody's, came from the Atlantic Institute for Market Studies, which is situated in Halifax. And here's the guy that's the head of it, Brian Lee Crowley. And if you look on their website, it's for the last 6 years or so, this guy has been writing, along a few other people, and speaking incessantly about promoting this concept. It's called Atlantica. There's nothing on there about education, about social programs, about the environment. It's all about trade, and they've analyzed the trade routes from the earliest days. Now they're showing, models and diagrams of Halifax as a super port, with super corridors going down to the U.S. So they definitely are trying to promote Halifax right now as a gateway to North America. And so they're looking at highways that will go over to Buffalo, which is a real railway hub, and other highways that will go down through Maine and Massachusetts. And then they're talking about a triangle between Boston and New York. And so they really see that they can help this poor, depressed Atlantic Canada, and they characterize Atlantic Canada with the usual GDP kinds of indicators, and they talk about the out-migration, the unemployment, and they don't talk about the good things that are going on. For example, in Nova Scotia now, there are a lot of initiatives through coastal communities and through sustainable development initiatives. And we do have a fairly successful economy in certain areas. And it would just take a change of focus to promote rural areas in a different way. So there's none of this talk. It's really all trade talk that's coming forth on this Atlantica concept. And yeah, I wonder why they cut it off at Massachusetts there. I'm not quite sure about that, but it's certainly a question that should be asked.